broadcasting from deep within inside the Wrestle House. My name is Karl Karufel, and this is Turnbuckle Talk. We are back for another show here, number 269, and I, as you can see, am joined alongside Corporate Joe this week. Joe, this is an absolute pleasure to have you back on the show here with me tonight. Thank you so much for coming by. And first off, how the hell are you doing, man?
Hey, you know what? I'm doing all right. For those who have been wondering, who do follow me on social media, I mean, I don't do much on there. For those who have been asking, I appreciate people asking. I have had, excuse me, I had to mute myself there, a little bout of bronchitis, which was an interesting journey to go through. I got my little puffer. Take a little bit there right now, so I'm good to go. But yeah, paying the price for a few lifestyle choices early in my life. But other than that, things have been pretty good. Work has been steady. I've gotten to watch a little bit of professional wrestling, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
Well, that and I guess what Ed is talking about here as
That's a
well.
good
Ed
question.
Fries coming in here. Ed, thank you so much for coming in, my friend. Absolutely love you. You are amazing. He says, time to talk about turnbuckles. WWE have always had my favorite. Also, do New Japan's pads count as turnbuckles? Those two questions should fill an hour, right?
Right?
Almost. I think that we can classify New Japan's as turnbuckles, um, or turnbuckle pads, I guess. Because if you don't know, the turnbuckle is actually just the metal part that's there, not actually the pad. So
Yep.
yeah, I guess there we go.
But I mean, I would say, because this is where it would actually be nice to have Jargo, because I know he's like an expert on this
Mm,
and likely knows about this specifically. But I would imagine because this kind of grew largely from, especially over in Japan, with a lot of boxing and other kind of combat sports. I mean, that's typically what you would see in that style of ring is a pad covering, all three turnbuckles. Um, and that also allows for some different kind of spots to be done during matches as well. You can be a little more aggressive into to those corners,
yeah,
and if you're Yano, you can use it in the match if you so choose. So
you definitely can, right? Yano seems to all the time.
all the time, yeah.
All the time, which I'm not upset about. Definitely not. I mean, that is pretty cool. I do enjoy that. Yano is a name that has been out there for a very long time within the world of professional wrestling.
Hmm.
And our first topic today that we're going to talk about is the changing of names. Now, I know that I've spoken to this a little bit, but Joe, you have not really had the opportunity to get onto any show or any podcast to really be able
Yeah.
to talk about these things. So we're going to talk about that first off. A number of these name changes that have been happening. Specifically, what we're talking about is name changes of already established independent professional wrestling stars when they're making their way to a larger company, whether it is the conglomerate known as the WWE or AEW or any of the larger companies. And then all of a sudden, a name change is coming into effect for them. So
Yeah.
I'm going to let you take the reins here, so to speak, on this and give us your thoughts on that, Joe.
First of all, I'll preface this with I'm not against name changes, but there's a big but when it comes to this. Um, I would definitely share your sentiment that for stars that are already established, it is a bad idea, in my personal opinion, because I think it only serves to insult your audience. Especially when there's stars like Walter, for example, who have stars have really latched onto. You throw a whole new name that with no reasoning whatsoever, seemingly, and then your fans immediately reject it as well, chanting Walter as the debut happens. Hey, Astrid, um, that it's a bad idea. I mean, just unless. I mean, there's been other name changes, even during our heyday of professional wrestling viewing, but there needs to be a reason, a purpose for the name change to occur, not just because we're calling you up and we feel that we have to change your name, or because we're worried about you when you leave that you're going to trademark name disputes and all that kind of stuff, and
Mhm, mhm.
merchandising and all that kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Just it just further seems to just insult the pro wrestling audience, in my personal opinion. There, like I said, there's times where it makes sense, a character change or like a total change in gimmick and that kind of thing, where it's happened organically due to storylines. But if you're just making a shift and it's abrupt like that, it's. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of, like I said, I don't watch a lot of professional wrestling these days. But watching Walter come up to that main roster, like it felt
Right.
really weird and awkward. When all you have to do is just let the guy be himself. You didn't have to try and make him into was the original idea for the character as like a German submarine captain or something. Um,
Well,
bad
that was
idea.
that no, I mean, that really wasn't the idea that they had for the
Yeah,
character. It was just that the name that they had
yeah.
was the name of a, German Nazi
Right.
submarine ship, right? That
Which
was where
which
all of that comes in.
again adds more to the insulting your audience. I mean, because your audience has access to all this information now, and they can find this kind of stuff, right? So, I mean, this is when coming up with those names, you need to kind of do your due diligence and pick something that's not going to reflect badly, or even the dewdrop thing, which I know is kind of old news now. But I mean, somebody at the table there had to be like, you know what? This might not be a great thing if you look at what it means. So
Right?
you got to try carefully with this kind of stuff. And so that's my greatest fear. My biggest thing is that you risk greatly insulting your audience, which is something they shouldn't be doing right now.
That's right. I agree with that. First off, Astrid, Joe already said hi, but I want to make sure that I say hi. Love you, girl. Thank you so much for popping in. Ed coming in with some more comments here. If you guys don't know, Astrid does a lot of stuff with Love Wrestling
Yep.
as well as Ed too. I mean, you can catch these people on a number of different shows, and I mean, even tonight there's going to be a double feature starting at 10 p.m. right here on this channel where we're going to be having Power Out and then NXT TEA as they talk all things NXT, which is absolutely fantastic. And of course, NWA Power or Power Out is going to be talking about NWA Power, which is another great show and company to talk about. Ed's got some really good points here as well. He says, I don't hate the name changes, but once they start using their old name to make their mark and then change it once they hit the main roster, that's when things really become an issue. And I think, Joe, that you really hit the nail on the head talking to that point. And I think recently the biggest one has been Pete Dunne changing his name to
Oh
Butch,
God, yeah, that's
right? Right. So we've already had Pete Dunne on the main roster,
yeah.
and we kind of tweaked his character just a tiny smidgen little bits, took him from maybe being a um an aggressive type of person and character to putting that just a little bit more over the top and now calling him Butch. I think is totally wrong.
It'd be like maybe a bit of a ridiculous or extreme example here, but it would have been like, say, if NXT was still a thing there, and the Undertaker, where he was a character in NXT, and he came up to the main roster, and they called him the Mortician,
Right.
or something like that, right? It's like,
Or
no,
the
we know
Madman, or
we know him
yeah,
as this, and then you all of a sudden flip it. It's without a reasoning for doing so. It just it,
right.
and I
You just
understand
call
they're
him Dead Guy.
right, and I understand they're trying to protect their invested interests, especially with merchandising and naming and stuff like that. But then it's tough, man. But it feels like we're just doing it for everybody for the sake of doing it, which
Right.
I don't think is the right move.
Noob, good to see you here. Thank you so much for popping in. I really appreciate that. Another one of Ed's comments here. He says that I also still kind of really like KLR or Kaylee Ray's new name. I know a lot of people are hating on it, but Alba Fire sounds like something I'd have made as a kid. Yeah, I mean, like that kind of speaks to you, Ed, right? So I mean, understandably, if that's speaking to you, then that's a good move for you. I haven't really seen her using this new name And I know it's still going to be the same Kaylee Ray, right? Or Kylie Ray. Sorry. I mean, I know that it's going to be, right. See,
Yeah.
I'm even doing it too, Ed. I'm gonna put this one up here. At least now I won't accidentally say Kylie Ray instead of Kaylee Ray. I've even been doing it myself. So yeah, I feel like an idiot too. But at times, if there, like Joe said, if there is a rhyme and a reason for that change and it can be explained, as long as it is explainable, I think that it is okay. Some of these more recent ones that they've been doing after a member of the roster has been in the forefront, let's say on the main roster, and now all of a sudden we're changing their name for reasons that doesn't sit well with me. Even going from NXT to Raw or to SmackDown, changing that name still really doesn't sit well with me. And I know that NXT seems to really have its own niche market, and that at times people who are watching Raw and SmackDown aren't watching NXT.
Yeah.
I get that. But there's a lot that are watching the entire product. So you're like slapping us in our face and calling us stupid is pretty much what it feels like.
See, and you hit on something there too, because obviously the WWE they want you to watch all of their content, but then they turn around and say, "Oh no, it's okay for this name change because they don't watch NXT." See, inside of that itself, you're admitting defeat. You're saying that you failed. Like
Right.
it would make sense to me. Like if you're doing like a shift from a good character to a bad character, or something supernatural happens where we have to suspend our disbelief, a change in the character like that can justify a name change. You know, was in the Nation of Domination. They're the was it Kama, and then he like changed the name to something else kind of after like see, and that kind of thing, it can make sense. But to just change because we're shifting you from spot A to spot B, and then too, this is again where the internet wrestling community is glorious in that kind of thing, because people are so narrow-minded that they see NXT as a different company. They're like, oh no, they went from the company of NXT, now they're in WWE, so it's a different name. I'm like, NXT is WWE. No, it isn't. So then that's where I press X and I exit out of social media, right? So, oh no, it's okay. NXT is a different company.
Oh.
My head wants to explode just thinking about it.
Right? Yeah. You know what's really possible to explode right now?
Oh, I thought you
Our
were
minds.
I thought you were going to segue into a commercial there.
Not into a commercial, because that would have been the wrong time
Right.
to segue to like a Manscaped, right? Which we will talk about Manscaped in a little bit here. Something that definitely is going to be blowing our minds, and is already blowing the minds of a lot of the internet wrestling community and a lot of the professional wrestling fans that are out there, even without knowing jack shit about this event. We're talking Forbidden Door. The event is going to be taking place with AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is going to be another huge event. Dude, I'm just going to read through here super quick the two official press releases here that came from Tony Khan, and that came from what is his name here? I just had it. Takami Obari. Okay.
So you get better with Japanese names, by the way.
I'm getting very good with them.
There.
Yeah, I'm trying. So Tony Khan says, as the world continues to reopen, I'm making sure the Forbidden Door follows suit, and we can finally give fans the dream events they've always imagined. The United Center was home of one of AEW's biggest events of all time, The First Dance, where CM Punk made his return to wrestling after a 7-year hiatus. This summer, fans of AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling can expect the unexpected during this extraordinary, first of its kind pay-per-view between our two incredible companies. That was Tony Khan. And now Obari is saying, as we have done for more than 50 years, the power of pro wrestling can energize people by fulfilling their dreams. Now it's quite an important mission for us, the pro wrestling industry as a whole. We are not only opening this door, we will show you New Japan Pro Wrestling's genuine, strong style beyond the forbidden door. So there's a couple of little things in there that really piqued my interest. Joe, I want you to kind of take things from there for a moment. Before that, though, yeah.
This specifically, I want to comment. If you have a mixed reaction about this show happening, you do not have a pulse as a professional wrestling fan. Okay, there should be no mixed reactions here. This is going to be dope. This is going to be sick. This is going to be effing awesome. I already have a list here of dream matchups that I want to see if I can share with y'all. All right.
Oh yeah, 100%. Damn right.
I don't normally say y'all, but I got a list for y'all here. All right.
I do. Before you go, Noob, we're not specifically talking about you. Like that's not what we're doing here. We're not like demoralizing or demeaning you at all with that statement. That's just a broad statement out to the universe. That's all. Exactly. Okay.
So here we go with three matchups, right? So you have an opportunity here with this show, and perhaps into the future to further tell some long-term stories that have been sitting and brewing for a long time. Right at the top of the list for me is you got to do something with Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, whether it's a match against each other or whether you get the Golden Lovers back together and have a tag team match against some team. The groundwork has been laid for that for years now, and it can come full circle. That would be awesome. Another one in that same vein, GOD has been talking crap about the Elite for a long, long time now. You have the Guerrillas of Destiny come in. You do not announce this match. You have the Young Bucks taking on an unnamed tag team, and you have GOD come in and absolutely decimate them, right? Perfect. That would be awesome as well. Some other ones on my radar. Hiromu Takahashi versus Daniel Bryan. That would be incredible. Okay. You have absolutely goats back in action. Yes, thank you. On the comedy side of things here, we had mentioned Yano earlier. Right. We got Orange Cassidy and AEW. You have
Danhausen.
You have a dream comedy match. I'll leave Danhausen out of there. Yano versus Orange Cassidy, right? So you do that one. And another one, big on my list that I guarantee nobody else is asking for, but would be absolutely incredible. El Desperado versus CM Punk.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then, of course, you have Okada. And who would you match up with Okada? Your current AEW World Champion, Adam Page, right? You have kind of AEW's main guy right now versus Okada, who is essentially going to be and kind of is New Japan Pro Wrestling's guy, right? Love Danhausen. Briefly on a bit of a tangent, I understand his popularity. The character has never resonated with me. I'm not gonna shit on the guy because I know he's very good at what he does, but it's just not one that connects with me on any kind of level. And I'll leave it at that. Not to crap anybody who's a fan of him because I know that he's very popular, but it does nothing for me. But dude, there's so much potential with this show. This is actually something that I kind of want to watch. And I'm somebody who's kind of stepped away from professional wrestling for a while now. But this show, it has me intrigued. And if any of these ones that I named could possibly happen, awesome. I know I would have said Minoru Suzuki versus Daniel Bryan, but they've already done that on AEW. I mean, you could do a rematch there, I guess, if you want to. There's so many possibilities for dream matchups. I mean, obviously, we can't get anybody from WWE involved in this. Nobody should even think it as a possibility. It ain't going to happen. Obviously, we have some options with Ring of Honor and with Impact, and things could overlap there as well. But dude, I'm excited for this one.
I want to get your take on. There you go.
I love you, Pluggo, but yeah.
I want to get your take on this one from Ed here. Ed says, I think AEW has already shown us that they have issues putting over another company whom they have been working with. So why not have mixed reactions about working with New Japan Pro Wrestling? What do you think on that? Because I mean, Ed is right. Ed is right in his statement there, where he's saying that we have seen that there have been issues with, like, working with other companies. They seem to believe that they are the top of the top, the only company, and that this other company is just along for the ride. They're the little brother, so to speak, as Big Brother is going out to play. Um, that does kind of give me a little bit of reservations when it comes to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view that will be happening,
Right.
simply because I don't want to see them use New Japan Pro Wrestling as just that little brother sideshow type of situation.
So, I mean, we're likely kind of referring to Impact, right?
Yes.
And AEW's relationship with that, that's Impact Wrestling. Okay, nothing against Impact Wrestling, but New Japan Pro Wrestling is the wrestling promotion over in Japan, and they're not going to allow themselves to be second tier to anybody, right? So, that's why we saw a little bit of the issues with the relationship with Ring of Honor in New Japan, because New Japan felt kind of slighted there, and I guarantee they're not going to make some of those same mistakes again. Yeah, Chase Owens. Yeah, that would be very interesting as well. That
That I want to touch on here, because that is something that I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Bad Luck Fale and my friend Chase Owens have captured the New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP Tag Team Championships of the world. And I am so happy and excited for both of them. Now, you're talking Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens versus FTR. I don't think we're actually going to be getting that, because on social media, what has been happening is that the Hardys have actually been saying they're willing to take on absolutely anybody, and they will delete anybody that is in their way. To which Chase Owens retweeted that and says pretty much, hey, Fale, looks like they're calling us out. Right? So I'm hoping that over the social medias that this is how that is going to play out, because I would be perfectly fine with the Hardys versus Fale and Chase Owens.
To address Pluggo's comment in the chat, because is great thing to mention. If they can, people have to remember as well. New Japan owns Stardom. Some of the best women wrestlers on the planet work for that promotion, and it's kind of they've interwoven with New Japan.
We
Well,
do have to
we'll
say
see.
Pluggo's comment, because not everybody's going to see this if you're listening to this in audio. Pluggo's comment was actually, how do they get women's representation on this card? It would be a huge mistake to leave them off this one.
Yeah, you could do who's geez, I already forgot her name. Who had the pirate character?
Was it Kairi Sane?
Kairi Sane.
Yes.
Versus Serena Deeb.
Oh, right.
There's a good matchup for you. You could do that one, even if it's just one match, to have that woman representation. Another one, if you want to do the legend match on the show as well, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Sting.
Right. That would be cool. Ed did mention as well, and I like this. I think that this would be really cool, and I think that they may actually be kind of maybe going in this direction a little bit. Adam Cole, baby, taking on Jay Switchblade White. That could be fun, he says. Yep. I definitely agree with that. Let's get to Ed's next comment here. He says we say that, but how often have we been seeing New Japan Pro Wrestling talent dropping matches to AEW talent when they come over? Again, these are devil advocate statements. I don't believe it will be an issue this time, but it's a good conversation topic. It definitely is. And that's, I mean, we've already gone like 20 minutes.
Huh.
So no, not 20 minutes, but
one thing you have to keep in mind too is that we're talking about with Japanese wrestling. It's a completely different mindset when it comes to the business over there as well. Not only with the match, the atmosphere of the matches, but the mindset of the wrestlers as well. They don't mind, say, like a Yuji Nagata coming here and putting over John Moxley on American soil. There'll be no reservations there. They know when that type of thing needs to be done for the greater good. It's not necessarily that they're just dropping matches for the sake of dropping matches. They're coming over here to use for a certain fan base because they know these Japanese wrestlers, and to come over and then to lose to one of AEW's talents only strengthens AEW's talents. And then on the flip side as well, that a New Japan talent was able to hang with a AEW wrestler and give them a run for their money. It's beneficial for both sides of things. So a loss over a win, as long as the match is top notch and it was a good fought match, everybody's a winner.
And I think to Ed's point, we definitely have been seeing that, especially when it comes to like Murder Grandpa, Zoro Suzuki, right? Like we've really been seeing that where and don't get me wrong, he has had a couple of wins, but he seems to be really just on the losing end of everything when it comes to his work with All Elite Wrestling, which you know it sucks, but at the same token, you're putting them up against younger guys all the time that he's legitimately a grandpa.
You're getting put over by one of the best wrestlers in the business. It's
right.
impossible for that to be a bad thing. You've won against Minoru Suzuki. That's not a bad thing. People are misinterpreting that to beat one of the best Japanese wrestlers of all time, who helped even create some MMA aspects of fighting. That's not a bad thing. He knows that. He doesn't mind putting these young guys over. He loves doing that kind of stuff. Don't be mistaken by his character. He's a sweetheart down deep there. But yeah, Murder Grandpa, still one of my favorites, and I'm curious to see what he'll do at this show. It's got to be something. Whatever it is, it's going to be good regardless.
Right. Ed, thank you so much for bringing up that those comments and that topic. And please know that we understand that we're not directing these comments at you, but that just you opened up that forbidden door for us to talk about, which we really do appreciate. Thank you so much. Something else that I really do appreciate is just how great I feel after I get out of the shower and I can use my Manscaped products.
Support for Turnbuckle Talk, as heard on Love Wrestling, is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world? Manscaped. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code LOVEWRESTLING at manscaped.com.
That's right, everybody. Manscaped.com is where you can go for amazing products over there. I own the Lawnmower 4.0. I have the Shed travel bag. I have the Crop Preserver. I have the Ball Toner. I've got all of it, and it is so amazing. I love every piece of my Manscaped products that I have. That promo code Love Wrestling is going to get you an unprecedented 20% off. That is in any industry something that is unheard of. They're offering that all the time for you. That is not something that's going to like just disappear all of a sudden. With that code, you're always going to get savings and that free worldwide shipping, as Titus O'Neil would say. You can't beat that, especially if you're living in another country outside of the United States like I do up in Canada, where shipping can cost you $17 to $20 for a package to come. Free shipping is absolutely fantastic. Pluggo. I would love to get this. We're going to go back just a little bit here and go through these comments. How much would you need to take one chop from Murder Grandpa?
Do it right now.
Right?
That'd be a feather in my cap, dude. I've been chopped by some wrestlers, and it hurts like hell. And I would do that proudly. So yeah, I've been chopped by Minoru Suzuki. Bring it on.
Ed says $1. Ed, yes, totally. We totally get that. Ed says, oh, absolutely. Just don't want people thinking that the NXT guy is just trying to take shots at AEW. No. We understand that. And I thank you very much for bringing that up for all of the viewers who are seeing this afterwards and everyone that is listening to this in podcast form afterwards. And for all of you that are watching this afterwards on Turnbuckle Studios YouTube page, as well as listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, I appreciate you and thank you so much.
Is one other thing too with another the insurance is that with like especially if you get right into the New Japan Pro Wrestling stuff, which I kind of missed to a certain extent. Especially watch the G1, some of their tournaments and their championships. Like you always see like different results in those tournaments. Like everybody, like it's never always the same person winning all the time. They try to put over as much of their roster as humanly possible.
Yes,
and that's
true.
why when they come over to North America, they don't mind putting the other guy over because they're so used to doing it, right? So
no, it's very true. Yeah, I mean that's just the way that it is with them over there. It seems to be a totally ass backwards type of situation from the Western side of things because of how we've been raised on professional wrestling. But for them, it isn't foreign, and it isn't like a dark side of absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, transition.
Yeah, Dark Side of the Ring is a television series through Vice TV that has been going on for a number of years now. 3 seasons that they've actually gone through, where they're taking a look at the dark side of professional wrestling, whether it be things that had happened in, with the Macho Man, or whether it happened with, Bruiser Brody or Dino Bravo, the plane ride from hell, the Montreal screw job, different topics such as that they have really been going through. And last week we were hearing that they did not get renewed for a 4th season. We'll update to that. Okay, so Vice TV has actually gone out, put out a tweet, and this is on record what they say. We've heard some rumors flying around about season 4 of Dark Side of the Ring. We are as committed as ever to both the series and the broader Dark Side franchise. Evan and Jason are hard at work making more content that we know our fans of the series will love. Stay tuned.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's interesting now because we've heard that they're not getting renewed, but that the creators or the people working on it, Evan and Jason, are working on another different project. Now, is that what they're kind of alluding to here, where they're talking about the broader Dark Side franchise and making more content that the fans of the series will love? Or are they talking, yes, there is a season 4?
It's whoever does, that was on Twitter, I suppose, right?
Yeah, that was from Vice on Twitter. Yes.
Whoever does Vice's social media on Twitter has clearly worked for a politician before, because that is very politically worded and answering a question without actually answering the question.
Right?
Yes. So, as cool as Dark Side Ring has been, because it has been, at the same time, it's been a little disturbing. Re-exploring some of the darker moments of professional wrestling. Specifically for myself, finding some details about the plane ride from hell that I wasn't necessarily privy to before was another thing that kind of turned me off of the business a little bit.
Okay.
But then hearing some other stuff too, like that story might have been kind of skewed a little bit. And it was sort of like an amalgam because a lot of those plane rides happened, whereas this show kind of presented it as all it happening at the same time. And now we're hearing that possibly maybe that wasn't the case. So as is human nature. I've always made this reference. Everybody who's played the game Telephone knows that once a story gets passed from individual to individual to individual to individual, by the time it gets to that 10th person, it is gone from being a orange piece of fruit to a brown piece of fruit. So it changes. It's human nature to put your own spin on things when you hear a story and pass it on to somebody else.
Yes.
And we're definitely seeing the results of that kind of thing there. I'd be curious to see because it does sound like it is something else that they're working on. Now, what that is, somebody that I know that still does a lot of writing for the business is saying that might be something exploring the territory times of professional wrestling, which we're kind of seeing coming back a little bit these days. That could be very interesting.
I fully agree with that. I think that it definitely would be amazing if they did do a series on the territories. Maybe not as dark as this series has been, right? But maybe actually going through and giving us a little bit of the positivities that have come from the territories. So much different things that you can take a look at when it comes to professional wrestling and different content. One of those places to go is lovewrestling.ca.
Ooh.
You can find so many different things there, from shows to articles to videos, a number of different things that are there, podcast forms, video forms, everything that you could want is available over at lovewrestling.ca. So make sure you go and check that out, please. I'm honestly very much so looking forward to another Dark Side of the Ring series. I personally don't even want to speculate as to what could come from this.
Yeah.
Right. I don't even want to speculate what topics that they can even talk about, because then I'm getting it inside of my own head and I'm going, oh yeah, I want this so bad. And this is what it's got to be. And when it isn't, then I'm disappointed, right? But I don't know.
I mean, hey man, like for the actual run of actual Dark Side of the Ring, I mean they explored some stuff that, I mean, I had inkling that they might, but was generally surprised when they did. I mean, it might seem kind of odd, but I'm actually surprised that they did the Chris Benoit story, because I mean,
Right?
like you want to talk like literally the most polarizing topic to this day. When it comes to professional wrestling, other than maybe the Owen Hart situation or the Jimmy Snuka, which they also covered as well. But the fact that they did 2 episodes on the Chris Benoit thing, yeah, I'm still to this day still floored about that. And if anything, I'm hoping that this new series will maybe put maybe a bit more positive spin on things instead of just exploring the negative, or at least end these stories, like try and find the silver lining or try and find some positive aspect of things instead of just delving into the constant horrible deep depths that is professional wrestling, because it can be a bit of a downer sometimes, to be honest with you.
It definitely can be. I just want to let everybody know the season 2 finale of Dark Side of the Ring, which covered Owen Hart and Owen Hart's death, was actually the highest rated program on the channel's history at that time. So yeah, very different, right? Noob coming in saying, what about the infamous plane ride from hell that drove everyone away?
That's what it did to me.
Right. Yeah. Joe mentioned that. Like, that's right. Like, just it's unfortunate. Right. But again, they are just as we are. They're content creators. They're trying to create content that they feel people would like and enjoy, just as I am trying to do on a weekly basis. Sometimes even more. Especially if you're going and checking out Turnbuckle Studios on YouTube, where you're seeing Turnbuckle Talk, and you're seeing Karl Karufel unboxes and whatever else I feel like putting out there as well. So I mean, they're all content creators trying to do these things, and unfortunately this one here, the plane ride from hell, is one that really caused a lot of controversy amongst not only people who were watching it, but those that were part of the episode as well. Ed saying the light side of the ring,
right?
I mean, if they name it that, I will be okay with that too. I
Yeah.
definitely would be. That would be fine. And
Yeah.
give us the brighter side of things, like we try to do here at Love Wrestling, where we talk about the good instead of the bad. We try.
Like I said, that territory idea really intrigues me. That's really back to the idea of when kayfabe was alive and strong. And
Yes.
of course, there's always been that debate. How could we get back to the land of kayfabe? Once we've gone in the other direction, we can't go back. Once we lost kayfabe, you just can't reclaim it. That's just the nature of it. I know some have tried, but we just we're privy to too much information. It's a good and a bad thing. It gives podcasters like us something to talk about, but at the same time, can kind of be a detriment to your wrestling viewing, which I found myself feeling that to a certain extent sometimes.
Definitely, I can definitely feel that. You know what isn't kayfabed? Collar and Elbow brand.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Wrestling, a love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand, the wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
That's right. Collarandelbowbrand.com, a brand that we have been part of, or that the podcast Turnbuckle Talk has been part of. Yeah, Corporate Joe and myself, part of that pretty much since its inception. We are the first sponsored podcast from Collar and Elbow Brand. As you can see, if you're watching the video down below, right in the center there, sponsored podcast. Amazing stuff over there. Use the promo code JK Podcast at the checkout and get 10% off your entire purchase. I love those guys over there. Al Snow is an amazing guy. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. Rod as well has been absolutely fantastic when it comes to trying to help us out with everything Collar and Elbow Brand. So thank you to both of them. And please go and check out collarandelbowbrand.com. Before I move on to my next topic here, I do want to bring up Ed's comment here. Light Side of the Ring, episode number 1. Titus worldwide and everything amazing he has done in the community. I think that, yes, you are so freaking right. 100%. Somebody needs to shine a bright freaking light on everything that Titus has done for every community that he goes to, not just his community, but every community that he goes to as an ambassador for the WWE. And that is something that I believe really needs to be showcased.
And when I think Titus, I will always think the famous slide. I think that's another thing, a potential idea is maybe do something like a Botchamania, but with like higher production values. Explore the gazillions of botches that are out there in the professional wrestling business, because wrestling never always goes as planned, and there are many out there. And so, if you want to go kind of more of the comedic angle, there you go.
Talking about comedy, this was not comedy.
Oh,
okay. So we all have seen, and I'm sure Joe, you've seen the WWE 2022 Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Did you watch that?
I did not.
You did not. So you didn't see the Undertaker's induction or speech?
I saw a good portion of that one. That one I did see. Yeah.
Okay. After the Undertaker gave his very fitting and emotional speech, where he covered a lot of different things and talked about a lot of different people, the internet wrestling community blew up and got their panties in a twist because one name was not mentioned. Now, this name has kept quiet on this up until just like a couple days ago, where this person has actually finally voiced about being snubbed, as the community is putting it, by The Undertaker at the induction ceremony. Joe, you're looking kind of confused there.
I am.
Let me say the name Mick Foley.
Okay.
Yes, Mick Foley was not mentioned at all during The Undertaker's speech. Now, okay, before I get into Mick Foley's comment here on this, what's your take on The Undertaker not mentioning this man right here? If you're seeing the video, I'm pointing at him right now, Mick Foley. What are your thoughts on that?
I have a couple different things on this. I mean, I can understand some people, maybe even Mick himself, being a little upset with not being mentioned. Because I mean, um, you know, they were each pretty instrumental in their WWE career, so I can get maybe a little bit of bitterness there to a certain extent. But at the same time, with Mick kind of being removed from the wrestling business, still stays pretty vocal on social media, but kind of voices some opinions when they're maybe not quite called for. I will say, he's voiced some kind of opinions that it's like, Mick, you didn't need to say that. And so sometimes, you know what? I'll bring up an oldie but a goodie here. Something that my mom told me at a very young age, and possibly some of and maybe some of our viewers were maybe told by their own parents. You know what? Sometimes if you don't have anything good to say, sometimes saying nothing at all is the better idea. I think that this was the case here. I don't think that there was a need to turn this into a big hullabaloo, so to speak. But I guess it turned into that, and it's unfortunate because, I mean, it's really the only negative aspect of this whole thing, and it just didn't need to happen.
Now, you talked about Mick Foley being somebody who has maybe spoken out of turn, in some of these different situations. And it's very clear that the apple did not fall far from the tree, because as Ed puts here in the comments, the next day I saw his daughter speaking about it, or speaking out about it. So yes, that's essentially where it started, with Noelle Foley. Bless her soul. I love that girl. Don't get me wrong, but bless her soul. She is the one that really started this. And people who I guess maybe agreed with her really hopped onto this and brought it out there. Ed's comments as well here. Thank you so much, Ed, for sticking here with us tonight. I know you're a very busy guy, and I absolutely appreciate this. Ed actually says Taker was more important to Mick's career than Mick was to Taker's career, and I fully agree with that.
It's a fair statement.
Yes,
it's a fair statement.
The statement from Mick Foley says, well, listen. Now, okay, so now to give context, this is during a podcast that he did, during an interview that he did. He says, well, listen, I forget to mention my wife during my speech. So I'm not one to lecture anybody about who they should and should not include in their speech. I was not there for those formative years. His was more about friendship and support. We had a great rivalry, but he didn't mention The Rock or Austin. So if I'm not hurt, no one else can be hurt on my behalf. Very well put. Yep. I absolutely loved that. 100%. That was the perfect thing to say, where he says, I've forgotten to mention my wife in speeches that I've done. He didn't mention The Rock. He didn't mention Stone Cold Steve Austin. If he didn't mention me and I'm not upset about it, nobody else should be either. Right? And there you go, Astrid. That was Mick's response to the internet wrestling community, the IWC, going out there and really trying to call out The Undertaker, Mark Calloway, on not including Mick Foley. I'm a Mick Foley guy too. Pluggo says I'm a Mick guy, so yeah, show him some love. I will always show him love. I have always been a Mick Foley guy. I've always enjoyed his work, but I think that that's absolutely amazing, and I love the way that that Mick did that. So, I mean, give me your thoughts on that, Joe.
It's social media kind of running its ugly head again, right? It's as much as great as the wrestling fan base can be at times, it can be the real shit sometimes too. I'll just come on and say it.
Mhm.
Um, it's a tough thing to talk about without kind of me getting kind of upset because it's because I can understand some fans feeling a certain way sometimes, but I think that sometimes they can be a little entitled, and they can sometimes voice opinions and cause problems that were really there to begin with,
Right.
whether it's to just feed their own ego, or whether they're just being trolls, or whether they feel they have a genuine issue where they feel they've been wrong themselves. And there's a lot of things that could be at play there, but I mean, just it's the type of thing that it's so different from the older times of wrestling where that didn't exist, right? Whereas now it's like there's wrestling has this thing along with it that kind of undermines it a little bit. I feel that I even said that I feel like the internet is really damaging to professional wrestling to a certain extent, and I still kind of stand by that. But at the same time, it can be really powerful for younger talent and up and comers to kind of make a name for themselves and get noticed by large promotions.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing because it's so great, be it detrimental at the same time. It's
Right.
such an odd beast, and it's something that I guess it's just kind of here to stay, but it can be a hard thing to manage. Some people that have a lot of mental health issues because of it. Some
Yes.
talents really get hounded by fans to the point where they're done, or worse, descend into some really dark areas. So yeah, man, it's a tough thing, and I just hope that some people will just kind of back off of that a little bit. Sometimes just be a fan and just kind of leave it at that. you know. But I understand it's tough because we want to know
Yeah.
everything that's going on. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of
Pluggo
my take.
saying here, yeah, no, and that's perfect. Pluggo saying here, I mean, I get it, and I ain't mad. It's his speech.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yep.
Like totally. You want to see Pluggo doing Pluggo. Okay, what you got to do is uh go find and follow
Mm.
Thunder Rosa on YouTube and take a look at her latest vlog that she did, because yes, Pluggo is part of that, as he was able to meet with Thunder Rosa. Go and check that out, please, because that was absolutely fantastic. I loved watching that. Astrid, you are so correct. She says, with time constraints, they end up cutting some of their speeches as well. The Bellas mentioned it recently. Yes, you're right. The Bellas did mention that, and you are correct. Time constraints really hold a lot of factor in these. It's not as though they can really just do whatever they want to do anymore, like they used to be able to, where they could have a 6-hour Hall of Fame ceremony. So,
And if you're Mr. T, you get cut short by Kane. So
right?
I hope I'm not the only one that thought of that in that situation right there. Sometimes you got to resort to desperate measures. When you start rambling on, you gotta get the hook. So
Ed is saying we should be more worried about Taker's last words were "never say never" than for him forgetting Mick Foley in his speech. You're right. You're right.
why don't we touch on that briefly to end things off? I know this is your show now here, Karl,
Well, I
but
got one more topic before we're ending things off here tonight
okay,
that I think is going to be a pretty big one. But
we can.
I just want to get through these quick, and then we're going
Okay,
to talk about that for a moment.
sure.
Astrid laughing at Pluggo saying the appearance was priceless, and Pluggo saying, and fall all over myself. You weren't falling, you were swooning. That's the way to put that, my friend. You were swooning. So I'm going to put this comment back up here. Ed says we should be more worried about Taker's last words, which were "never say never," than him forgetting Mick Foley in his speech. So, Joe, take it away.
If we're talking about him possibly having one more match, I mean that's I know that where that this is going. I'm really torn about it because if you were, it would have to be with the exact right person, and I'm not sure who that would be right now. Because I mean, you can't be doing like moonsaults and stuff to the outside or going through tables and that kind of stuff. Don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. Unless you're Stone Cold, who did it when even I said he couldn't do it, so he proved me wrong.
Right.
But still genuinely shocked about that. But Undertaker, I mean, if there's one guy that doesn't owe the professional wrestling business anything, it's him. So
Yes,
like
that's true.
anything else that he does now is just gratis. So what's your take, man? Do you think he does warm a match? Does he need to?
He doesn't need to at all.
No.
No, not at all. He has definitely fulfilled a lifetime of a career with the WWE and has solidified himself as being part of that Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling for a lot of people. He does not need to do one more match, but will we maybe see Taker come out for other little things, like let's say they do a gimmick battle royal or something like that, right? So that's about the only thing that I could really see.
Ooh, a new gimmick battle royal. I was a fan of the first one. That'd be interesting.
Plug was saying, I'm a Thunder Rosa stan, one of my absolute favorites, and I apologize. I apologize to Mrs. Pluggo. I did not mean to get him into any trouble if that did happen. Pluggo says I only swoon for Miss Pluggo. That's good.
That's good.
Oh geez, no. Ed is saying Mrs. Pluggo versus Thunder Rosa with special referee Pluggo.
There you go.
Oh boy, you just as Pluggo says, oh boy.
Yeah.
Pluggo as well saying that he does not want to see another Taker match. So I think the majority of us are all in agreement there, where we don't want to see another Pluggo or another Taker match. Pluggo agrees with that. Corporate Joe does. I do as well. So
I still say that him versus Brock or him versus Bray should have been his retirement match.
I think so as well. I definitely do.
Yep.
100%. I think so as well. You know what I'm not happy about right now?
What?
That Dunder Mifflin shirt that you're wearing right there. You know, you could go to this right here and get yourself some amazing merchandise. The official Turnbuckle Studio shop is open. Official merchandise from all the favorite shows, plus merchandise you can only find here. Stuff from Turnbuckle Studios. Karl Karufel unboxes. The Boar's Nest with Bubba Duke. Miscellaneous products that you can only find here. Beats and Beatdowns. And Turnbuckle Talk. Find all this merchandise exclusively at karlkarufel.redbubble.com. That's right, everybody. The shop is open. There is a new shop that is available. I am wearing the Turnbuckle Talk shirt from that. If you have been over to Turnbuckle Studios on YouTube, then you will have seen the latest edition. No, you would not see that yet. I was going to say the latest edition of Beats and Beatdowns, but I was not wearing my shirt then. The Karl Karufel unboxes, where I do the Redbubble merch. That's where you can see the Beats and Beatdown shirt, as well as the F the Remsburg shirt that I picked up for myself. So please go and check that out if you can for me. Any purchase that you make does bring a little bit back to me to help support the running of all of this, whether it is StreamYard for the other content that I make outside of Love Wrestling, or whether it is for the Podbean account. Whatever it is, every little bit helps support, and I very much so appreciate that. Something that I think a lot of people are not going to appreciate right now is an email that was sent out to a number of different people in regards to All Elite Wrestling. So I'm just going to read through this here quickly for you. It says, below is a brief description of the new show. Okay. AEW's top performers are ushering in a new behind-the-scenes wrestling series like no other. Every episode will track our core cast on the road at AEW events as they try to hold on to the titles they have or win back the ones they've lost, with everything culminating at the biggest pay-per-view event of the year. They all hope to walk away champions, but there aren't enough belts for everyone. Heroes will rise, villains will fall, champions will be crowned, and with more access, more star talent, and more drama than ever before, we'll see it all through the eyes of the biggest names in the company. As you may know, TV networks often consider different titles for their TV series, and we would like to ask you about a few potential titles for the upcoming season and get your opinions on them. So that's essentially confirmed there that AEW is creating another show where they're going to be following maybe one specific person or maybe a series of people as they're going through on the road. So essentially taking us behind the curtain, so to speak, and giving us this different show. Now, specifically what they're asking for is name, right? So they're specifically talking about the name. So all of these names start AEW and then a name afterwards. So I'm just going to read the names instead of AEW after every single one of them. I'll start with the first one though. AEW Grit and Glory, or The Climb, or Friends and Enemies, or Breakout, possibly All Access, maybe Fight to the Finish, or On the Ropes. Could be Uprise, or maybe To the Mat, possibly To the Top, or finally Road to the Belt. So those are the names that they've really come up with so far. I think I'll be. I don't know if I'm going to be. Okay, so now this is yeah, you're right. Ed saying these are all pretty crap.
So before you continue,
Yeah.
So they already have the show. It's called Being the Elite.
That's a YouTube series.
This
is going to be an actual television series.
So just bring the Elite over to Being the Elite over to TV. It's kind of the same thing,
right?
I just.
But Being the Elite really is only focusing on them, on that faction, right?
Yeah, but
with
they
a little
some
spillover of people once in a while.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if peeling the curtain back on this particular company is a good idea. I don't know about that one.
You got to remember they were kind of doing the same thing with Roads to the Top.
Yeah.
And now that Cody is no longer there and Brandy is no longer with the company, there is no more Roads to the Top. So they probably have to contractually fulfill with another television series.
Right? I'm of the firm belief that I think AEW is at its best when it just focuses on the actual wrestling. With trying to do the sports entertainment stuff, which WWE already does, I think that they fail spectacularly at it. Just and I'm not an anti-AEW person, but I mean WWE already churns out all that sports entertainment stuff. AEW trying to do that similar kind of stuff, I don't think that they get anywhere near that. To be honest with you, they just focus on the wrestling, which I think that they do better than most.
Spectacular, yeah.
And stick with works with that. I mean, I like some stuff that they're doing, like with the game coming out, the fight. They're calling it Fight Forever. Apparently, like next week on Dynamite, apparently they're going to give like a preview of the game and that kind of stuff. That's cool. That's cool. Do that kind of stuff, but then do some matches in between, which they'll probably do, and then stick to that. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think if they try and be too much like what they're saying that they were so much against, and then try to be too much like it, they risk kind of alienating some of their fans, I think.
I think you're right. I definitely do. Ed says there's only one or two that I like. If you remember those names, elaborate, Ed.
Yeah.
Honestly, out of that entire thing, I think the only things that I like are maybe All Access or Friends and Enemies. For me, I think that those are like the only two that But yeah, but this was an email that was sent out to a number of different people within the United States, probably those who are on an email list for like TBS or TNT, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what it was. Again, because contractually, I guarantee that is exactly what this is, right?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what this is they have to fulfill this, so they have to come up with some sort of thing for content.
Like Ed saying there, I would see Road to the Belt, just because they know that WWE is very against saying that, and they'll do it just as a jab. I think
Right.
I could see them doing Road to the Belt.
Yeah. He also says in all elite wrestling, all access or access wouldn't be terrible. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward with this and how long it's going to take for them to maybe get all these responses back, filter through them, and be able to start doing this, start taping, start bringing this forward. It's going to be, honestly, it's going to be real interesting. Corporate Joe. Is there anything else you want to discuss today?
Not too much, man. I mean, coming into the show, I did watch a little bit of professional wrestling coming into it. The most recent episode of Dynamite, which I thought they did some cool stuff there. The matchup between the two FTR guys for that Owen Hart qualifier, I thought that was a really good match. I mean, they literally like recreated a match with Brett and Owen as a tribute. That was like really cool because as I'm kind of watching the match, I'm like. So I'm seeing some familiar stuff here, and I thought those
Right?
guys did an amazing job with that. That was really cool. They've been doing a really good job building up Wardlow and getting him over with their audience. I think they're doing a really cool thing there. Some of the MMA crossover, which is happening in this company, I'm not too fond of with Paige Van Zant. I know that I know fans really love her. She's still very green and needs how to throw a punch better, I will say. The matchup between Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida was really good. And that ladder match for the TNT title, really good until that ending. There was some funky kind of stuff that happened there. Sammy Spot off of the ladder onto Scorpio, like he totally whiffed on it. And then he did this thing where he took this spot onto a barbed wire ladder and then bounced right back after, something that always drives me nuts in matches with me being a purist, only for him to lose. I thought that was really kind of funky, but overall, a pretty good show, especially for somebody who hasn't really watched it all lately.
And that's fantastic. I definitely wanted that we ended on a good note. And anytime that we can hear Mighty Joe praising some professional wrestling right now is definitely a good point.
Oh, dude, if they do even one of those matches on that Forbidden Door show, if they do like even just one of the ones that I had picked or thought of, I'll be happy. Just one. That's all I want. I'm not greedy. If they do them all, cool. But just do one. Like especially like Hiromu and Daniel. Like do that.
Right.
Do that one.
Time will tell. That pay-per-view isn't until June 26th. So there is some time. Maybe as we start hearing some more about who will be on the show and what the card like, maybe we can see about getting Corporate Joe back on and doing like a preview show as soon as we get the entire full card before this and see how things turned out, especially with this the stuff that he's been kind of throwing out there now. So
I think with the nature of it though, I think you keep most of the card mysterious, or you only show like certain in the AEW talent against somebody. I think you keep the majority of that card a secret, and then you could build some anticipation. I know you still need to sell the card, the show with some,
right.
So you do have to announce a couple of the matches, but I think you keep some of them kind of mysterious. Yeah, you could be for something pretty cool there. And I mean, it's called Forbidden Door, so I think you have to stick with the mystery a little bit. Needless to say, I'm intrigued and I'm interested.
That's good. It's always good when we can get Mighty Joe back interested in a little bit of professional wrestling here. And I absolutely love it. Joe, thank you so much for joining me here today. I was absolutely thrilled when you got a hold of me and mentioned that you had the time off and that you would like to come on to the show. So I really do appreciate you. You are my brother. You have been since grade 5. Yes, we have known each other that long. I absolutely love it. I love you, and thank you so much. Anything that you want to give to the viewers before we head out here?
All I will say, man, like I said, I don't get to do this very much anymore because I am Corporate Joe, as you can see on your screen. For those listening on audio, I'm Corporate Joe now. I'm not Mighty Joe. Well, I can be my Joe sometimes, but right now I'm kind of Corporate Joe. So I don't get to do this very much. But at the end of the day, I do still deep down love wrestling, and I will always be a part of it in some way, somehow.
Astrid says, awesome show. Thank you so much, Astrid. Love you very, very much. Mwah, mwah,
Thank you.
mwah. You are absolutely amazing. Ed has been amazing today as well. We've got Pluggo that was here with us as well. And Noob, thank you so much. That's a new name that I really haven't seen very often. But Noob, thank you so much for coming in. If you're still here with us and listening, I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much. And as always, everybody, remember that, I mean, we've only got this one life, right? And everybody is here together. So just make sure that you are going through this road of life the best way that you possibly can. And remember, take care of each other.